My name is Mika Newton. I'm the CEO of a company called xCures. And we are here today to announce the fact that the next generation of our platform is going to make interoperability in healthcare a real thing, finally. So I'm going to let you all in on a secret. There is a revolution that started taking place probably about 18 to 24 months ago that is going to reshape the way you think about healthcare data. And that revolution has been underway for almost 20 years. So it started right around the time of Hurricane Katrina with Health Information Exchange and was further reinforced in 2016 with the 21st Century Cures Act and the creation of TEFCA, which is going to lead to something called QHIN, which are Qualified Health Information Networks. And what does all that jargon mean? That jargon means that medical records in the United States are going to flow around, and in fact already do flow around freely between patients, institutions, caregivers, all over, and that has been a huge problem for a long time. Today, given the right permissions, you can access medical records at a rate of about 85 to 90% for any given US patient. So that is somewhere north of 270 million Americans worth of lives is available today. And you need a few things in order to be able to access it. Number one, you need the rights, and number two, you need the technology, and that's what we're going to be showing you today. So let's talk a little bit about the different ways that one can access these networks, because it's interesting. The number one way, and the original HIE networks, the large ones, so Care Quality, Commonwealth Alliance, and eHealth Exchange, were really focused on the idea of treatment. And the Qualified Health Information Networks are also focused on treatment. So what is treatment? Treatment is when I go and see a healthcare provider, and they are going to give me care, and they have a right to my medical records in order to give me more appropriate, better, higher quality care. And so they can access my medical records. It seems very obvious, but I'm sure all of you have been into a healthcare encounter before and been asked to fill in a medical history. Don't they have that information? Don't they know about your allergies? I was telling someone today, I spent a good portion of the time that I'm filling that form in, deciding how much of the form do I really feel like filling in, and then making my own layperson decisions about whether I should omit something or not, because I may or may not think it's important for that particular encounter. Why does someone need to know about my knee surgeries from my 20s, right? Why does someone need to know about that med that I only took for a little bit of time? But all that data is there, it's not getting transferred, and it directly impacts my care. Number two, and this is a really important one, and I think touches home to anybody who's suffered from something like cancer, rare disease, or any sort of complex disease, which is individual access services. So this IAS category here is all of our right to get access to our own medical records and to get copies of them from all of the providers that we've seen and do, frankly, whatever we like with them. They belong to us. We paid for meaningful use through our taxpayer dollar. It was implemented and integrated through these networks, and we should have rights to access that data and be able to take them. And over the course of our company, we have worked with thousands of cancer patients, and this one issue alone could have fueled probably 20% of most of the discussions we had with cancer patients about how can I just get my medical records from one place to the next place so that the people who are going to give me care there will understand what's happened to me and can give me the right kind of care going forward. And then the last piece, we call this the BYOD, bring your own data piece, which is lots of data is sitting in institutions or in our own hands in paper records, copies, faxes, PDFs, et cetera, and all of that data can be done. So where does xCures come in? What are we showing you today? We are showing you what you need to have in order to make sense of that. And I'll give you an example coming up, but there is such a vast quantity of information that's being exchanged right now that if you don't have the right tools to interpret it, you won't be able to do anything with it. All of that promise of quality and better care can't be realized without the appropriate tool sets to put on top of it. So what do? We generate AI-powered search tools. So think of having a database of every person's medical records that's fully searchable, both using, I would call faceted, so specific search, as well as semantic search, so conceptual search functions. So you can find what you need in piles and piles of medical records. And I've seen boxes that come through FedEx that look as big as, frankly, bankers' boxes full of medical records. We generate patient summaries. So think of this as the way that two physicians might talk to one another and describe a patient. So it's a 48-year-old male with stage 2 cancer. That summary, right, contains the way that physicians and caregivers talk to each other and provides a natural synopsis of the patient. And the last piece, which we think is most important, is healthcare is basically forms-based. That health history that you filled in was a form. The prior authorization form that's going to be used to do your PA is a form. The test request form that's being filled in is a form. So everything in healthcare is a form, and if we can deliver the exact data required to fill in the form, it eliminates a huge amount of medical error, staff time, waste, and potential issues with actually delivering the highest quality of care itself. So who's using this? And then I'll show it to you. We started our business and we had a huge uptake in, I would call it telehealth, digital health. So think of a telehealth encounter as like going to a Zoom meeting. You hop on, you're talking to someone on a Zoom meeting or on your iPhone. They're a healthcare provider, and what do they know about you? Whatever they were given in the referral, and they might be prescribing drugs to you. They might be advising you to go to to be referred to another encounter, et cetera. They need that information to generate better care for you. Number two, laboratory diagnostics. So when you order something like a minimum residual disease test or an advanced genomics assay, the data that goes onto that test form is often incomplete. And if you don't have the correct data, then the interpretation of the test may be wrong, and you may be prescribed the wrong chemotherapy, or you may make an error essentially associated with it. And so having a universal process for accessing that data across the laboratory diagnostic space enables for faster, more efficient testing and better results in operational processes underneath it. And then the last one is in provider systems. So I'll give you a couple examples here. One is the hospital transfer desk. So these are patients who are moving from one care facility to another who are waiting to be transferred into a hospital. Hospital has to decide, are we going to accept this patient? Do we have the right resources, staff, equipment here in order to accept that patient? And if the answer is yes, they'll accept them. Problem is the patient shows up, they're either more or less sick than they said they were, and the resources are misallocated. I'll give you another one, emergency room. If you've ever been to an emergency room, think of all the people standing in that emergency room that nobody in the emergency room knows anything about. You don't know whether they're drug seeking, have been in 5 other emergency rooms that day, or they have a critical comorbidity that you need to use to check up. There are 650 medical records, or hundreds of thousands of records per patient. Thank you very much. And what would you do with that? It'd be really hard to find anything. So the first thing is imagine being able to sort all of those by the NPI specialty type, who wrote that, what type of physician wrote that document, what facility was it from. This record actually contains records from a minute clinic, right, from a major hospital, from a separate part, and then be able to search it for semantic context like genome. So this is a genetic alterations report. Actually be able to find the document that contains the genetic alterations that you need in order to have that healthcare encounter and pinpoint key insights. That wasn't looking for anything other than the concept of a gene alteration report and finding those documents. What you see here, we think of as a golden record. So the data on this patient goes back to 2011. You'll see they have a routine life, and then they have a breast cancer diagnosis. You can see utilization pick up. This is essentially a Gantt chart of the patient's medical record with every data point tracked and linked back to its original source document. So anytime you want to go back and say, where did this data come from? You have an ability to go back and source verify it and cruise through it. So this is the first time I think that we're seeing the entire patient's medical history over their entire time they spent over 20 years in the healthcare system. That is revolutionary. However, that's all too much. Like if you think about someone who's at the front desk or might be an MA filling in a form, we also know that we have to deliver very encounter-specific information. So not only can we produce searchable databases with the ability to interrogate them, but we can deliver compute-ready specific data that feeds directly into the healthcare process itself, including natural language summaries and all of the underlying data behind it. Basically, we get you the key information you need when and where you need it in order to make healthcare more efficient. The amount of labor, time consumed, errors that this is going to address is incredible, and it probably fits across every single aspect of healthcare as we know it today. And the thing that I'm most excited about is this revolution is here, and I don't think most people actually realize that it started happening. And I think we are in for a very interesting next probably 5 to 10 years as all of this data and technology makes its way across the marketplace. So, thank you all.